New rumors coming out about the future of Lou Lamoriello with the New York Islanders. We've got that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we are now also available on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search for Locked On Islanders. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So much to discuss, including an update on the Lou Lamoriello and Lane Lambert situation. But first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings throughout a busy off season, from hirings, firings, trade rumors, free agency, the draft, you name it. We will have it for you here on Locked On Islanders. So still nothing official on the future of Lou Lamoriello and Lane Lambert. And yet over the weekend, a report coming from Andrew Gross of Newsday indicating that Lou Lamoriello will be offered a new contract, reportedly a 3-year deal, and that Lane Lambert is expected back as well. Now, we do not know this officially yet, although Andrew Gross tends to be very reliable when it comes to what he's reporting. And realistically, we have to see whether or not the team even makes an official announcement. We know Lou Lamoriello likes to keep things quiet on player contracts, let alone his own contract. And there may not even be a situation where, Scott Malkin and John Ledecky make an official announcement. And, there also remains the possibility that Lou Lamoriello signs that 3-year contract, and let's say after a year, 2 years, decides that he would like to stay as president of hockey operations or vice president of hockey operations, but no longer continue as GM. And then maybe a Chris Lamoriello or a Kyle Dubas comes in and takes over. Now, Dubas, we're still keeping an eye on his situation, what's going to happen with him in Toronto. Certainly a lot of changes expected after the Maple Leafs were eliminated by the Panthers. Whether Dubas returns or not, would he take an assistant's job under Lou Lamoriello for a year, knowing that he was promised to be the GM after that? Or what I think is more likely is that a team that needs a GM right now, and the big example is the Pittsburgh Penguins, an obvious division rival of the Islanders. Dubas may very well go there and be a rival of Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders. We don't know. And again, we may not get an official announcement. But here's the thing that Andrew Gross basically said. It's that they appreciate the way that Lou Lamoriello has changed the culture of the New York Islanders, and that they believe that culture change should be sustainable even when Lou is no longer the general manager. So again, does that mean he's here for 3 more years? Does it mean he's here for, part of that time and then moves on and hands the reins over to somebody else? We do not know. But I think making the playoffs this year, which means out of the 5 years that Lou Lamoriello has been here, the Islanders made the playoffs 4 times and won around 3 out of those 4 times and twice went to the conference final. That track record of success is going to be enough for him to be asked back. Now, again, we will wait for an official announcement, and we know there may not be one, but exit interviews and some internal discussion leads Andrew Gross of Newsday to believe that Lou Lamoriello will be offered a new contract. And then there's Lane Lambert. And I think, look, Lambert did some very good things this year. He also had his growing pains. And we've, everydayers, we've discussed this on the show before, and I'm sure we'll discuss it again throughout the offseason. But here's sort of the question for Lane Lambert. If he does get asked back, how long is his leash? One thing we know about Lou Lamoriello, he has fired coaches when his teams were in first place. Now, that also depends on expectations. The guy he fired that I remember when he was with the Devils was Larry Robinson, with about 2 or 3 games left in the regular season and the Devils in a slump, but still in first place in the division. And, I don't believe that firing ended up helping very much. But, the fact of the matter is that Lou Lamoriello does not usually have a lot of slack for players, for coaches rather, depending on what expectations are. Now, for the Devils back then, there were higher expectations. What are the expectations that Lamoriello would have for the Islanders heading into next season? You got to think that you at least want to get back into the playoffs. And, we heard Matthew Barzal talk about this. Everydayers will recall that as well. He's tired of just squeaking into the postseason. He wants this team to take it to the next level, to be a team that, isn't a wild card, that is competing for a division and clinches a playoff spot with a week, 2 weeks left in the regular season, that is considered not a team that squeaks into the playoffs, but a contender. If that's the expectation for the New York Islanders, then Lou Lamoriello has some work to do. And obviously, Lane Lambert may not have a very long leash when it comes to, if this team does get off to a slow start, maybe Lou Lamoriello looks elsewhere. Now, we have heard nothing about the assistant coaches, and the big focus there is still John McClain, who was the special teams coach, and this power play, dreadful during the regular season, 30th out of 32 teams, last in the league in the playoffs, the 1 power play goal in 6 games in the playoffs, and gave up a shorty. The special teams were one of the biggest reasons the Islanders failed. So no news yet officially on anything. No news on whether the assistant coaches will be back. But according to Andrew Gross of Newsday, Lamoriello, Lambert, both likely to be back. Offered another, Lamoriello offered a 3-year deal according to Gross. And we'll see what transpires. And of course, we'll keep you updated as soon as an official announcement is made, if an official announcement is made. We've got more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We're going to continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders roster with Kyle Palmieri. Did he meet expectations? Did he have a good season? And what is his future role, if any, with this team? Plus, another original Islander we lose over the weekend. We've got all of that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by a product I literally use every day, AG1 by Athletic Greens. Maybe you're like me, you want to be healthy and eat well, but it's easier said than done. Well, that's no longer the case with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1 each day, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all these things. And look, it costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, but it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. All it takes, well, to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So Kyle Palmieri, interesting season for Palms, and you look at the final numbers, he was on a pace to get, about 22, 23 goals if he played the entire year. The problem is he didn't play the entire year, was limited to 55 games, 16 goals, 33 points. Now, did better last year than he did in 2021, 2022, when he had the same number of points in 69 games. So clearly a better performance. And when Palmieri was healthy, we saw a lot more from him. He really had some great chemistry with Brock Nelson and then Pierre Engvall late in the season. That line was down the stretch when the Islanders were fighting for that playoff berth. One of the big reasons they got it, and in the playoffs for the 6-game series, they were really the only reason that not the only reason, they were the most consistent line out there on this Islanders team, and it really did have an impact. Palmieri can still put the puck in the net over the course of 82 games. If you prorate what the games played to 82, he probably has 22, 23, maybe even 24 goals and maybe 48 to 52 points. But, again, part of the problem is that Kyle Palmieri is now 32 years old, and those injuries happen to pop up a little bit more frequently, and they take a little bit longer for him to recover from. And Palms is a streaky player. When he's on, the Smithtown, Long Island native is really capable of carrying this team for a few games. And we saw him do that. Late in the season, for example, shortly after he came back from the injury, he had a 4-point game in Anaheim, a goal and 3 assists. Followed that up with a goal and an assist after a scoreless game, another scoreless game, and then a 2-goal, 1-assist performance in a game against the Devils. So he is more than capable of getting hot and carrying this team. He has played on the power play, but only 3 goals on the power play all season long, which is unfortunately among the better players on the Islanders because this power play has struggled so much in the playoffs. 2 goals, 3 assists, so 5 points in 6 games. And, again, one of the better players, not afraid to be physical, especially in the playoffs. Had a game in Toronto where he was credited with 7 hits. So while that is not the strong point of his game, when it comes to Kyle Palmieri, he's not afraid of being physical either, and he is responsible defensively. So 76 hits in 55 games. Again, not going to be the guy, but as far as physicality goes, but for a top 6 forward, that's not bad. And, Palmieri, still has some time left on his contract right now. He has 2 more seasons at a cap hit of $5 million. Ideally, you would like that cap hit a little bit lower as he gets older and his productivity probably starts to go down, while his likelihood of missing time due to injury likely to go up. But overall, Kyle Palmieri, a solid player for this New York Islanders team. Again, if the team wants to get younger and faster, Palms is one of the quicker guys on this roster, so there's not as big of a problem with that. But as far as getting younger is concerned, if you can trade Palmieri while he still has value, again, not likely to happen if Lou Lamoriello is back. And it is likely to be one of those situations where, Palmieri going to be back and going to be playing top 6 minutes. He does have a no trade clause in his contract. Basically, he has a full no movement clause, and then in 24-25, a 16-team no movement clause. So barring Kyle Palmieri saying, hey, I want to be somewhere else, he is going to be back with the New York Islanders next season. And again, unless they make an acquisition of some big top 6 forward or maybe even 2, Palms is likely to be back in the top 6. And they're going to need him to continue to be productive, but also to stay healthy, because that is the biggest knock right now on Kyle Palmieri. Some people will knock the inconsistency. And, his first 6 games, he didn't score any goals, only had 1 assist. He can go through those dry patches at times, but, goal scorers tend to be streaky, and you live with the streakiness as long as they are productive. When he's healthy, Palms is productive. The key for him is staying healthy. And again, 33 points in 55 games. It's better than a half a point a game, but you want to see, if he does play the 82 games, you'd like to see him closer to 60 to 65 points rather than 50 to 55 points. But hopefully that's something that he can do next season. And again, the fact that he's fast, that he has that speed, really makes him even more important to the Islanders. And he does have leadership qualities as well. So expect Palmieri back, not leaving unless he okays it. And I think that the Islanders, he'll be an important part of this team again next season. We have got more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We lost another original Islander, a very popular player on the team throughout the 70s. And in addition, we have our Islanders birthday of the day. So we've got all that and a whole lot more still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. We have killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So some sad news for Islander fans over the weekend. The passing of Gerry Hart, a defenseman on the Islanders from 1972-73, their first season in the league, through the 78-79 season. And, you know, the thing about Gerry Hart, he was never a big goal scorer, never had more than 6 goals and 25 points, 25 points in his time with the Islanders. But he was smart. He was tough. He went over 100 penalty minutes 3 times and had over 90 2 other times. And the amazing thing is, Gerry Hart never backed down from anyone, but the Flin Flan, Manitoba native was only 5'9", 175 pounds, but he was tough as nails. Wasn't drafted, broke into the NHL with the Detroit Red Wings, had a couple of cups of coffee in 68, 69, 69, 70, played a lot in 70, 71, but Islanders got him in the expansion draft, and Bill Torrey said he was one of 3 players, the others being Billy Smith and Ed Westfall, who really helped the Islanders develop into a quality hockey team that he got in the expansion draft. And he was a guy who, you know, fans absolutely loved. And Al Arbor, when he joined the Islanders in their second season, really appreciated what Gerry Hart did for this team, because he saw things going on that, you know, a young team needed. And here's what Al Arbor once said. I liked Gerry from the very start because in some ways he reminded me of me when I was playing. He was mostly concerned about taking care of business in his own zone, and he didn't take crap from anybody. And Gerry Hart was quoted in this article as saying, Al wanted his players to gain some respectability and a sense of pride in our work. I could see that happening right from the start. In Al's first year, our losses went down from 60 to 40. We were getting there and getting tougher. And, you know, in 1975, the Islanders made the playoffs for the first time. And they beat the Rangers in overtime in a deciding Game 3 in the first round, fell behind the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-0, and came back and won 4 straight games to become only the second team in NHL history to have that remarkable comeback. And Newsday, they were being covered, the Islanders, by Tim Moriarty at that point. And he credited Gerry Hart with being the reason, or one of the big reasons, for the comeback. Here's what Stan Fischler, quoting Tim Moriarty of Newsday, Gerry pointed out the mistakes that were being made and figured out the Penguin strategy. And Arbor appreciated Hart's input. Lo and behold, the Islanders became the first American NHL team ever to rally from behind 3-0 and win a series. And, you know, Hart stayed. He had some great battles with the Flyers. I remember a battle with Mel Bridgman. But after the 78-79 season, he was exposed in the expansion draft and chosen by the Quebec Nordiques, played 1+ seasons in Quebec and then 2+ seasons with the St. Louis Blues before hanging up his skates after the 1982-83 season. 730 NHL games, 29 goals, 179 points, and 1,240 penalty minutes. Did not win a Stanley Cup, missed it by just 1 year. But after he retired, and he almost retired when he was claimed by Quebec in the expansion draft because he loved Long Island. And he settled here permanently and opened the rinks in Hauppauge and managed that place. And I had the pleasure of interviewing him for my book, Ice Wars. Just a really nice guy, great memory, and involved in the community here on Long Island. And just sad to see another player who I grew up watching leaving us too soon, Gerry Hart, original Islander, and tough, gritty guy despite his small size. He has passed away at the age of 75, and member of the Suffolk Sports Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. Gerry Hart will be missed. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And we go back again to a guy who was only briefly teammates with Gerry Hart, played one game in 78-79 with Hart, but a guy who was on one of the Islanders' Stanley Cup winning teams. I'm talking about Steve Tambellini. Tambellini turned 65 on Sunday. He was the Islanders' first round pick in the 78 NHL amateur draft, 15 pick overall. Came up in 79-80 for good, and was with the Islanders in 1980, and had his best year on the island in 80-81, where in 61 games he scored 19 goals, had 36 points, but was traded to the Colorado Rockies as part of the Chico Resch deal, and was an original New Jersey Devil when the Rockies moved to New Jersey in 82-83, and had a 29-goal season in Colorado, a 25-goal season with the Devils, then played for Calgary, Vancouver, and hung up his skates after the 87-88 season with the Canucks. Went on to be in the front office of a few NHL teams after his retirement. Finished his career with 160 goals and 310 points in 553 NHL games. Only played in 2 playoff games. Those were with Calgary, and had an assist. His best game as an Islander, or one of them, December 16th, 1980, when the old barn was still the relatively new barn. Islanders welcoming in the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre Hamel, the goalie for Winnipeg. Chico Resch in goal for the Islanders. And for Steve Tambellini, a goal and 2 assists. He scored on his only shot on goal as the Islanders defeated the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 6-2 on that day. So Steve Tambellini, he is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Want to thank everybody again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Every dayers, tomorrow on the show, we will continue our look at every player on the Islanders roster as we take a look at Alexander Romanov, what his season was like, what did he meet expectations, and what his future with the team is going to look like. We'll also have any updates on the situation with Lou Lamoriello and Lane Lambert and anything else Islanders related. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.